I want you to picture something for a second. You are sitting in a dark, totally packed movie theater.
Oh, yeah. Popcorn in hand, ready to go.
Right, exactly. You've got the tub of popcorn in your lap, and you are wearing those, clunky plastic 3D glasses for the latest Hollywood blockbuster.
The ones that never quite fit right.
Exactly. Now, for the person sitting to your left and, the person sitting to your right, the superhero on the screen is literally flying right out of the frame. I mean, it's magic.
Right.
But for you, you take the glasses off, you look at them, you put them back on, and nothing. The movie is just this blurry, headache-inducing mess.
Yeah, that is the worst feeling.
It really is. And you're sitting there wondering, why isn't this working for me? Well, the answer is that seeing in 3D isn't actually about the glasses at all. It is a highly orchestrated magic trick performed by your brain.
And to pull off that trick, it requires your eyes to be perfectly aligned,
right,
down to the absolute millimeter. Because when they are even slightly off, that biological 3D magic trick, it completely falls apart. Your brain just can't fuse the two images together.
Welcome to the Deep Dive, where we take a stack of fascinating research and, we try to uncover the mysteries hiding inside our own biology.
It's great to be here.
Today, we are exploring a really intriguing question. Why do eyes sometimes lose that perfect alignment? It's a condition known as strabismus, which you might have heard referred to as crossed eyes or maybe a wandering eye.
Yeah, those are the common terms.
And I'll give you a hint right up front. The answer actually lies in a strange sort of software glitch inside the human nervous system. And even more surprisingly, scientists have recently figured out how to use the smartphone that is probably sitting in your pocket right now to actually detect it.
It is a totally fascinating story. We're basically watching modern computer science catch up to the sheer complexity of the human brain.
So our mission for this deep dive is pretty clear. We are going to investigate the surprising origins of strabismus and uncover this cutting-edge artificial intelligence that is completely revolutionizing how we catch it.
Sounds like a plan.
Okay, so let's unpack this. We need to start with the problem itself. What is mechanically happening when someone has strabismus?
Well, just to give you a sense of the scale here, this affects roughly 2 to 5% of the global population.
Wow, so that's hundreds of millions of people.
Exactly. It's incredibly common.
Yeah.
And historically, the medical community looked at strabismus and just thought it was an obvious mechanical issue. They believed it was a problem with the hardware.
Like the muscles controlling the eye are just physically broken?
Yeah, that was the baseline assumption for a long time. I mean, the human eye has 6 extraocular muscles controlling its movement. And the traditional belief was that these muscles were either too weak, too tight, or maybe just physically damaged.
So if the eye turns inward, I think that's called esotropia, right?
Right, esotropia. Doctors figured the inner muscle was simply pulling too hard.
Which, that makes intuitive sense. It's like if my car keeps aggressively pulling to the left every time I try to drive straight, I take it to the mechanic.
Right, you check the alignment.
Exactly. The mechanic puts it up on the lift, checks the tires, checks the steering column, the tie rods, all the physical hardware.
But imagine if they look at it and say, well, everything here is in perfect condition.
Right, and they tell you the problem is actually your GPS. Like, Google Maps is sending a glitchy signal to your car's self-driving computer, telling the wheels to swerve.
That is a brilliant way to look at it, honestly. And it perfectly mirrors the scientific twist we've discovered in the research.
Oh, really?
Yeah, we have incredible evidence highlighting this shift. If we look at research published in Grace's archive for clinical and experimental ophthalmology.
That is a mouthful.
It is. It really is. But this study by Bernat Sunyagrau and his colleagues, they mapped this out beautifully. They revealed that in 75 to 95% of these cases, specifically a type called committant strabismus, the extraocular muscles in their nerves are structurally perfect.
Wait, 75 to 95%?
Yeah.
So almost everyone with this condition has completely healthy eye muscles.
Yes. There is absolutely nothing wrong with the physical hardware. The researchers concluded the real issue is central strabismus. It is a deficit in the central neural pathways of the brain that are involved in visual perception and oculomotor control.
So your brain is essentially sending the wrong alignment coordinates to perfectly capable muscles.
Exactly.
You mentioned the term committant strabismus. What does that actually mean in this context?
So committant basically means the angle of the misalignment is exactly the same no matter which direction the person looks.
Okay.
Whether they look up, down, left, or right, the wandering eye is off by the exact same amount. It is a constant fixed offset.
Which is a massive clue, right? That the brain's internal coordinate system is just calibrated incorrectly.
Yes, exactly. It points directly to a software issue rather than a random hardware failure.
That completely flips the script. But, I mean, it also sounds like an absolute nightmare to diagnose. If the muscles are fine and it's a software glitch in the brain, how do doctors actually see it?
Well, that diagnostic problem has frustrated doctors for decades. Because it's a software issue, it can be really intermittent.
Ah, of course.
Sometimes the brain compensates, right? It fights through the glitch and the eyes align. But other times, especially when the person is tired or maybe sick, the system just gets overwhelmed and the eye wanders.
So a patient could literally sit in the eye doctor's chair and their brain just decides to perform perfectly for those 15 minutes.
It happens all the time. And when the doctor's trying to catch it, the gold standard test is something called the alternate cover test, or ACT.
How does that work?
So the doctor covers one of your eyes with a little plastic paddle. This forces your brain to rely entirely on the uncovered eye. Then they quickly move the paddle to cover the other eye.
Okay, I think I've had that done at an eye exam.
Yeah, it's very standard. What they're looking for is a tiny jump called a saccade to see if the newly uncovered eye has to scramble to fixate on the target.
But wait, if the glitch happens in a fraction of a second when the paddle moves, I mean, a human doctor physically can't see that with perfect accuracy, can they? They'd need, like, high-speed cameras.
You've hit the nail on the head. Doctors try to estimate the angle of that jump by holding up different glass prisms to bend the light until the jump stops.
That sounds incredibly subjective.
It is entirely subjective. It relies on the skill, the reaction time, and the pure experience of the human examiner. Human eyes simply aren't fast enough to perfectly measure every millimeter of another human's eye movement in real time.
Right.
It leaves a massive margin for clinical bias and error.
Which means we clearly need to swap out human observation for machine precision. And this is where the story gets really, really interesting. Tell us about the eye tracking breakthrough.
Okay, let's look at a study published in the journal Diagnostics in March 2026. This was led by Dr. Maori Lee from the Future Artificial Intelligence Technology Company in South Korea.
Okay.
They completely digitized the alternate cover test. They used a 60 hertz infrared eye tracker.
60 hertz, so that means it's capturing an image 60 times a second.
Exactly. It captures the exact X and Y gaze coordinates of the patient's eyes 60 times every single second while that paddle moves.
Wow, let me guess though. They didn't just have doctors look at that dense tracking data, right? They fed it into an AI.
They did. They used machine learning algorithms, specifically one called a random forest.
A random forest. Okay, so instead of one AI making a guess, it's like a forest of hundreds of different decision trees, all voting on whether the eye is misaligned.
That is the perfect way to visualize it. Hundreds of decision trees analyze the exact micro-movements of the eye when it's covered and uncovered. They find these hidden patterns that a human doctor could never possibly see.
And how did it do?
The results were phenomenal. The AI achieved a 97.56% accuracy in diagnosing strabismus on their test set.
97%.
Yes, it basically eliminated the guesswork completely.
Okay, 97% is amazing, but I have to push back here for a second.
Sure.
Infrared eye trackers operating at 60 frames per second. That sounds incredibly expensive. I mean, that is equipment that lives in specialized clinics or fancy university research labs.
Right.
How does a multi-thousand-dollar piece of hardware help, say, a school nurse in a rural district or a parent sitting at home worried about their toddler's vision?
Well, scientists realized that exact limitation. For this to truly change public health on a massive scale, they had to ditch the fancy infrared equipment and use a tool that was already ubiquitous.
Oh, don't tell me, the smartphone camera.
Yes, the smartphone. In a 2025 study published in the journal JMR Formative Research, a team of researchers, including Dr. Ruby Liu, Dr. Gang Luo, and Jungxian Heap, from institutions like Fudan University and Harvard Medical School, they tested a web application called iTurnCloud.
iTurnCloud. So how does that work? Are people just like taking selfies?
It's basically a highly controlled selfie, yeah. Clinicians use standard off-the-shelf smartphone cameras like an iPhone 11 or 13 to snap high-resolution photos of patients' eyes under different cover test conditions.
Just regular photos.
Just a regular photo taken right as the eye is uncovered using the phone's flash, and those photos are securely sent to the iTurnCloud AI.
Okay, I'm trying to wrap my head around this. How does an AI extract millimeter-level precision from a regular, JPEG image?
It uses a brilliant sequence of computer science. First, It runs an object detection model called YOLO-5.
YOLO, like you only live once.
Close. It stands for you only look once.
Okay.
It instantly finds the face and crops down to just the eye regions.
Oh, so that sounds like the technology your phone is already using when it puts that little yellow box around your face before you take a picture.
It's very similar technology, yes.
Hmm.
But once it isolates the eyes, it hands the image over to a second incredibly powerful AI model called SAM,
Sam.
the Segment Anything model. SAM's job is to perfectly separate the iris, the colored part of your eye, from the white of the eye and the eyelids.
But wait, our eyelids usually cover the top and bottom of the iris, right? The AI can't see the whole circle.
Exactly, which makes SAM's job incredibly difficult. Because it can only see the left and right arcs of the iris, the AI actually has to mathematically fit a perfect ellipse to those visible boundaries.
Wow.
It essentially rebuilds the invisible geometry of your eye just to calculate the absolute exact center of your pupil.
It plots the center by predicting the rest of the circle. That is wild.
It is. And for the final step, it looks at the tiny dot of light reflecting off your cornea from the smartphone's flash. By comparing the exact calculated center of your pupil to the exact location of that light reflection, it calculates the deviation of the eye.
Unbelievable. But how accurate can a smartphone photo really be compared to a trained doctor using physical prisms in an office?
The iTurn cloud system actually showed a massive correlation with the clinical gold standard tests performed by human experts. It was capable of detecting a misalignment of just 3 prism diopters.
3 prism diopters. Okay, for someone who isn't an optometrist, what does that actually mean? A diopter is a measurement of how much a lens bends light, right?
Yes, exactly. In the physical world, a 3 prism diopter deviation is a tiny, barely perceptible shift in the eye's alignment. But when you translate that physical measurement onto a high-resolution smartphone screen,
Let me guess, it's just a few pixels.
exactly a few pixels, the AI is catching a neurological brain glitch by measuring a shift of literally 3 or 4 pixels on a standard iPhone photo.
That is just mind-blowing.
Isn't it?
But, this brings up a really important contradiction to me. If we now know, thanks to the Grapha's archive study we talked about earlier, that this is a software problem in the central wiring of the brain, and we are using advanced AI software to diagnose it, well, how do we actually fix it? Because we can't just plug a USB cable into a patient's visual cortex and download a software patch.
We definitely can't. And that highlights the massive irony of strabismus treatment today. Even though it is predominantly a software problem, surgeons still have to go in and adjust the physical hardware.
Wait, really?
Yes, they operate on those perfectly healthy extraocular muscles.
So going back to our car metaphor from earlier, the Google Maps software is sending a bad signal telling the car to turn left. And because the mechanic can't hack the software, they just take a wrench and physically bend the steering column to the right to cancel out the bad signal.
That is a shockingly accurate description of strabismus surgery.
Seriously. The surgeon will literally detach the healthy muscle, move it further back on the eyeball to physically weaken its pull, and sew it down. They are mechanically overriding the brain's faulty software command.
That sounds intense.
It is. And getting that mechanical tension perfectly right is incredibly difficult.
I can imagine. Because if you undercorrect or overcorrect even slightly, the patient wakes up from surgery and still has crossed eyes.
Right, which happened quite frequently in the past. Conventional strabismus surgery has a surprisingly high failure rate over time, but let's look at a 2023 study in the journal JMAT by Dr. Nipat Fonsegroon and colleagues.
Okay, what did they do?
They compared conventional surgery to a newer technique using adjustable sutures.
Adjustable sutures, like tying a slip knot instead of a permanent double knot?
That is exactly what it is.
Huh?
In conventional surgery, the surgeon ties the muscle down permanently while the patient is fully asleep under general anesthesia. They do their preoperative math and just, have to hope it holds perfectly.
But with an adjustable suture, the surgeon uses a specialized slip knot that allows them to tweak the alignment of the muscle after the surgery.
Wait, after the surgery. So the patient wakes up from anesthesia, they are sitting in a chair, and the doctor literally pulls a string dangling from their eye to fine-tune the tension.
Yeah, it sounds intensely uncomfortable, and psychologically it is quite an experience for the patient.
I bet.
But they numb the eye with drops, and the patient looks at a target. The doctor can make real-time waking calibrations until the alignment is absolutely flawless.
It's literally like tuning a guitar string while you are actively listening to the note.
That's a great comparison.
Mm.
And the data from Dr. Nipat Fonsecoon's study shows why this mechanical precision is so vital. When looking at long-term success rates, meaning the eyes stayed perfectly aligned 24 months after the surgery, the conventional suture group had a 60% success rate.
Meaning 40% of those patients saw their eyes drift again.
Exactly. But the adjustable suture group had a superior success rate of 72.2%.
Wow. So we have a software glitch in the brain, diagnosed by cloud-based AI on a smartphone, which is then treated by tying slip knots in the eye muscles for real-time waking calibration.
It really is a wild journey from diagnosis to treatment.
The ingenuity here is just incredible. But let's zoom out to the bigger picture for a minute. Why is it so urgently important that we catch this? I mean, some people might listen to this and think, okay, the eyes look a little crossed, it's a cosmetic quirk. Is it really a medical emergency?
That is a crucial question. And the answer is that strabismus is absolutely not just about appearance. It has profound neurological consequences.
Like what?
Well, think back to your 3D movie theater example. To see in 3D, your brain needs two slightly different images from your two eyes to merge together. But when a child has strabismus, their eyes are sending two completely different conflicting images.
Which causes intense double vision.
Yes, and the human brain hates double vision. It is incredibly disorienting. So in young, developing brains, the nervous system does something quite drastic. It actively suppresses the visual input from the misaligned eye.
It just turns the eye off.
It runs a sort of internal noise-canceling algorithm to block out the conflicting signal. It basically ignores it.
Oh, wow.
And this is where neuroplasticity comes in.
Yeah.
If the brain isn't using the neural pathways, the literal wires connecting that eye to the visual cortex it brings them, those pathways weaken and fail to develop properly. This leads to amblyopia, which is commonly known as lazy eye.
So by running that noise-canceling algorithm for too long, the brain literally lets the physical wires fray and die from disuse.
Exactly. And if that isn't caught and corrected early in childhood, while the brain is still plastic and adaptable, that vision loss becomes permanent. The person will never have scariopsis, the ability to see the world in true 3D.
That is heartbreaking. So the stakes for catching this glitch early are incredibly high.
Very high. And the stakes go beyond just visual acuity, too. There is a massive psychosocial impact. Research consistently shows that strabismus is heavily linked to psychosocial difficulties, anxiety, and depression.
Right, because humans are so deeply tuned to eye contact. I mean, it's how we connect, how we read emotions. If someone's eye is constantly wandering, it just disrupts that fundamental human connection.
The studies are very clear on this. Kids with untreated strabismus face bullying, social isolation, and significantly higher risks of developing mental illness as young adults. The misalignment affects how the world sees them, and in turn, how they see their place in the world.
This is exactly why the smartphone AI feels like a genuine revolution. Imagine a rural clinic or a school nurse who has a line of 50 kindergartners to screen, or a telehealth visit where a parent is worried because their toddler's eyes seems to drift when they are tired.
Historically, that parent would be put on a waiting list for months just to see a pediatric ophthalmologist in a major city.
Right. But now, thanks to systems like iTurn Cloud, they don't need to wait 6 months, and they don't need a $10,000 infrared eye tracker. A school nurse can just snap a photo with an iPhone, upload it, and get an objective, expert-level assessment instantly.
It completely democratizes access to specialized medicine. We can catch this glitch in a school gymnasium before the literal wires in a child's brain fray from disuse.
It is a perfect example of technology bridging the gap between highly specialized knowledge and urgent public need.
It really is.
Well, we have covered so much incredible ground today. Let's do a quick recap for you listening. First, we learned that concomitant strabismus isn't usually a problem with weak eye muscles. It is often a mystery of the brain's central wiring, a literal software glitch where the brain's coordinate system is fundamentally off.
Second, we saw how artificial intelligence is changing the diagnostic landscape.
Right.
We are replacing the subjective estimates of human doctors with pixel-perfect AI models using the standard smartphone cameras we already carry.
And finally, we explored the surgical irony. Because we can't patch the brain's software, surgeons are using adjustable slip knots to make the physical hardware corrections more precise, fine-tuning the eye muscles while the patient is awake to ensure long-term success.
What is truly fascinating here is the broader shift in medicine. For centuries, diagnosis have relied entirely on the examiner's artful observation. We're moving away from that, entering an era of objective, data-driven digital health. It's not just about treating the eyes, it's about understanding the intricate loop between the brain, the muscles, and the machine learning tools that help us see what was previously invisible.
Which leaves us with one final, lingering question for you to ponder long after you finish this deep dive today. If a cloud-based AI can look at a standard smartphone photo of your eyes, mathematically rebuild your iris, and perfectly map out the hidden misalignments in your brain's visual software, what other neurological secrets are hiding in plain sight, just waiting for the right algorithm to look at a selfie?
Thank you so much for joining us for this session of the Deep Dive. If you enjoyed uncovering the mysteries of human biology with us today, please follow and subscribe for more fascinating journeys into the science of us. See you next time.